I don't think anyone saw this coming. Want the latest Apple news, leaks and rumours? Subscribe and ring the bell. Out of the blue, we've just heard that EA Games is trying to sell itself and has been since March this year. Apple is apparently just one of the companies who've held discussions with EA, along with the likes of NBC Universal, Disney and Amazon. We talked for a while about the potential for Apple to build up their reputation as a gaming company, especially on the Mac, in the wake of Apple Silicon's release. And while Apple is already making more money from gaming than Nintendo, Sony or Microsoft combined, Apple is not being seen as a AAA platform. Of course, the place all of that gaming revenue is coming from is, in the main, the casual gaming and microtransactions built into games on Apple's App Store for the iPhone and the iPad, but mainly the iPhone. What Apple is missing out on is native games for Apple Silicon Macs, and this is starting to change a little bit now with the release of things like Warhammer Total War 3. The biggest challenge Apple has in gaming terms is that they have a relatively small market share as well as a unique platform, meaning that games need to be developed or ported specifically to the architecture. The smaller market share, of course, means that the returns could be limited, however, and historically Mac buyers haven't exactly bought them for their gaming prowess, so the level of interest in gaming for typical Mac users is also unproven. So acquiring a game studio would be a great way for Apple to have control of some developers who'd have a pretty decent incentive to get their games running on Apple's platform. We speculated that possibly Blizzard would be a good fit, given that World of Warcraft was one of the first games to get an Apple Silicon native version. In my head, I'd love Tim Cook to just stage a hostile takeover of Epic Games as well, just to annoy Tim Sweeney, but that doesn't look like it's on the cards right now. However, EA has never really crossed my mind, which is strange because they own a couple of my favourite franchises, Command & Conquer and Roller Coaster Tycoon. Not that they've particularly treated the teams behind either of those franchises particularly well over the years, allegedly. Reporting of EA shopping themselves around to Apple, Disney and Amazon, among others, came as quite the shock. However, it sounds like some of the caveats that they've attached might be part of the reason that nobody has snapped up the brand just yet. It seems that EA's CEO Andrew Wilson is looking to head up whatever company bought EA. Yeah, that's right, Wilson, according to the reports, which came via Puck, seems to suggest that they're looking to have somebody pay a bunch of money for the company before asking Tim Cook, Bob Chapek or Andy Jassy, and yes, I had to look up the Amazon guy's name, to step aside. I mean, worse things could happen than Bob Chapek not being in charge of Disney, but more on that in our What If Apple Bought Disney video later this week. And I know it's already late, sorry, I'm working on it. But it does seem a bit rich for the CEO of the company worth $36.77 billion, thinking that he's in a position to displace the likes of Tim Cook, who's taken Apple to its current $2.3 trillion valuation, and it's been substantially higher than that as well at the height of the tech market too. So I guess where EA ends up remains to be seen, but let me know in the comments what game franchises or publishers you'd like to see come to the Mac. Which are the games that really get you going? And before we get into your questions, a quick blast from the past. Our notification squad is back. That's right, it's back. So if you've rung the notification bell in the past, or you want to do it today, that's fine too. Post hashtag notification squad down in the comments and you'll get a shout out on the next video. We're building up that notification squad once again, guys. So, first question from the comments comes from Randomness R. I gave answers. What year do you think Apple will stop making iPhones? I mean, once it goes full screen in the next 4 to 5 years, there's nothing much they can do after to get people to upgrade. I don't think how much of the iPhone is screen is really what makes people upgrade or not. It's about the features, it's about the cameras that are inside, and we still don't have iPhones that are on the level of DSLRs. Now, I agree that most people can take better photos with an iPhone than they can with a DSLR, but that's because the iPhone does the work for you. The DSLR gives you all of the flexibility to do all of the really interesting stuff. But that's just one aspect of it. I'm not 100% sure if design is what's going to make the difference in future, but I do think we're going to get to the point where we've potentially got that satellite communication built in. There are thoughts that it might come this year. There were also thoughts it might come last year, so not 100% sure on that. But also, what other devices could you include into an iPhone? For example, we've been talking about the iPads getting something along the lines of DeX when you connect a keyboard and mouse. Why not an iPhone? It's got enough power, it's just as powerful as most of the iPads, so potentially your iPhone that sits in your pocket could be your whole computer, and it's just a case of where you happen to sit it down. You go to, for example, a library that you want to do some work at, do some studying at. You plug your iPhone into a USB-C cable because presumably we'll have it by then, and you've basically got a desktop computer that you take all your work with you, or it connects to your cloud, whatever. works along those lines. So I think that's a potential, and I think people are increasingly living on their phones. I don't think that's going to change in the next 4 or 5 years. So I think Apple's probably still going to be safe for a little while yet. Also from Randomness R, iCave answers, do you think the original HomePods will return as HomePods 2? I don't think it's going to be the originals. I think it might look similar to the originals. However, I think it's going to have better tech inside. My hope is that it could also be that thing that we've been talking about where it'll have an HDMI port on the back and you can plug it into your TV and it will become an Apple TV box. Whether it's also going to be the one that has the cameras inside it, probably not, because it's not really the right shape for that. But I think great audio is something that people do care about more and more. And as people, we've moved away from a lot of people going to the cinemas. We've got a shorter theatrical release on movies now of like 45 days instead of 90 days. So a lot more people are watching movies at home, and I think that's part of what it will be. I would hope that they give it the capability, at least, where you can have a pair of the bigger HomePods at the front of a room, smaller HomePod minis around behind you as satellite speakers, and you can get that surround sound option going on. I think that would be pretty awesome. Dom Bullock, the Tech Eye Hound, asks, iCave answers, what are some specific features you'd like Apple to add to macOS and or Final Cut that would help you with your YouTube creation? Thanks. So, I've mentioned in the past, I think live stream support would be really helpful, or basically being able to sort of ingest videos live, regardless of whether you're actually streaming it or not, but being able to record directly into Final Cut. If you're doing reaction style videos would be really good, and having those multiple sources, at which point you might as well make it capable of live streaming, because that's basically what you're doing. It's just whether you're recording it or sending it directly to the internet. I think that would be really good. I think being able to automatically generate captions and add them to the videos would be incredible, even if it comes as an SRT style file where you get the separate subtitle file that's generated with the timings, because that's the one thing, like, actually making subtitles is not difficult, it's just very time consuming. And with Apple's auto captioning that they're adding to things like FaceTime calls, I think it would be very simple for them to integrate that into something like Final Cut, and then you would be able to just edit any mistakes. That's going to be an awful lot quicker than starting from scratch and putting in time codes and everything else that you would need to do normally for an SRT subtitle file. That would be a huge thing, especially for accessibility, and it would also encourage a lot more YouTubers to include subtitles in their videos in the first place, which would be only a good thing. Randomness R asks, iCave answers, will AirPods Pro 2 and the refreshed AirPods Max 2 come with USB-C ports? Now, we're expecting these towards the end of this year, and actually today, Guoming Chi has tweeted out that he does not expect them to be refreshed with USB-C ports. He expects that they will still come with Lightning ports. Now, the reason for this is that Apple isn't making that switch at this point, and I think it's still an experimental thing that they may be moving to USB-C. It's not been confirmed. The laws haven't been passed in Europe at this point, as far as I'm aware. I'm sure someone will correct me if I'm wrong, but at this point it's still very much up in the air, and I still think that there's a decent chance that Apple moves purely to wireless charging and wireless data transfer. I don't think it would actually be as big of a deal as people think, and if nothing else, they might create a better version of MagSafe that can do data too. That would make a lot of sense to me. But no, it doesn't look like we're going to get USB-C on the next version of AirPods Pro or AirPods Max. And Anthony McIntosh, which is a great name by the way, iCave answers, I watched a video here on YouTube that suggested Tesla may even threaten Apple's ecosystem by locking them out of their cars, while then building their own smartphone to then develop an ecosystem. The talking point was that Tesla owners would move away from the iPhone due to incompatibility with their vehicle. I would love to hear your thoughts on this, especially as it relates to how Apple's culture would play a part in this. Greetings from Jamaica. Now, I do think if anyone could do something like this, it might actually be Tesla. The difficulty, though, is that they are starting from a point where we already have two very established smartphone platforms, iOS and Android, and they would potentially be a third. I don't know if they would be looking to be an Android-based system, whether it's a fork of Android. But if they're not, then even if you do create a smartphone that's specific to Tesla, you've then got compatibility with apps, and we're going to have the same issue that we had earlier in this video with gaming on the Mac with apps for the Tesla phone, because the user base isn't going to be there in the first place, which means that developers won't put the time into building for a specific platform, and then that means that that platform will never grow to the point where people would use it enough for the developers to come in, we've got 2 massive platforms already. So I think there's a difficulty there for Tesla. I think if Tesla actually pays the developers to do these apps specifically, or it's a fork of Android which they have their own store within, which is quite possible, and it's just a case of these developers uploading to their specific store, that's also a possibility. Other than that, though, I don't think the number of people using a specific brand of car would probably be enough to push people over. I think the only thing that Tesla might be able to do is basically give one of these phones to everyone that owns one of their cars already. That's a possibility, and if that becomes the only way that you can actually unlock your car, unless you want to carry the key card around with it, that might be a way that they could do it. That being said, Apple has a lot more than just a phone and a car. They don't have the car yet, but the cars are on the way. They also have the Macs, they have the iPads, they have the Apple Watch, they have all of the other stuff. Now, I can't see that the flamethrower and the Starship is going to be an integral part of this system, so I think Apple's safe for now. But that's it for this video, guys. If you've got a question you want answering in a future show, hashtag #ICaveAnswers down in the comment section. Don't forget to do the notification squad. If you haven't already subscribed and rung the bell, you're going to need to do that first, and then you'll get a shout out in the next video. Thanks so much to the Patreons over here. If you want these videos ad-free, join them. Thanks so much for watching.